Very good. Okay. So I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen so we can do some introductions. And then here comes Angeline Koch. We'll just give her a second to get her audio set up. But my name's Justin Haggerty. I'm the executive director of the nonprofit Reflow. I'm also an environmental engineer. Reflow is a small nonprofit in the Milwaukee area that works on community-based water projects. We have a couple different programs, but the biggest one relevant to our conversation today is our Green and Healthy Schools program. We've worked with MPS for the past 7+ years and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District. Right now, I think we're up to about 28 schools that are at some point in the schoolyard redevelopment process. And you guys are in cohort 5 of an annual process. And there are 5 schools in your cohort, and which means there are multiple schools ahead of you that you guys get to learn from a number of their lessons learned, which is great. So we're going to do quick introductions. So Lisa Neeb, could you just introduce yourself quick?
Hey everyone, I am Green and Healthy Schools project manager for Reflow. I am also an educator. I was a high school science teacher for several years and have done a lot of science enrichment programming at nature centers and museums and zoos and things like that. So I'm very excited to see what your plans are for your school, and then you will be receiving most of your communications from me. So lots more time for us to get to know each other in the future.
And then Carolyn, please.
Hi there, I'm Carolyn Eswine. I'm on the faculty at UW-Milwaukee. We're at the School of Architecture and Urban Planning, and I'm the Director of Community Design Solutions. So all of my staff are graduate architecture students, and they will be working with you each month. We do the renderings and understand the design and visioning. So we want to make sure we interpret what we hear from you, but also we're really helpful because everybody loves the renderings when you want to do fundraising, right? And explain to everybody the possibilities for your school. And I also want to stress that, you know, it's really important for you as staff and your students, but it's also a really good amenity for the community. So I was keeping that in mind. And I'm going to have Rachel introduce herself because I will be leaving at 1 for class. But depending on how you schedule your next 3 months, it'll likely be Rachel who will be here.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am with Community Design Solutions. I'm one of the project assistants. I'll be working with you guys' school. I'm in my last semester of the graduate program at UWM, and I'm really excited to work with you guys.
Angeline, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, congratulations again for selection. It's good to see Carolyn and Lisa and Rachel, nice to meet you. It's a very exciting program. You were in such great hands, like front to back with Carolyn and her group, and then Reflow and Lisa. It's a really great team. They're going to be helping so much with everything that needs to be done between now and construction. As Justin said, I work in the, I met some of you at the, the meeting we had for the presentation meeting. But I am the project manager for these projects. I am the sustainability project specialist for Milwaukee Public Schools. So I do a lot of stuff, but this is a big bulk of my position is getting these green infrastructure projects from design concept. I help with Denise Fields, our grants person in our grants department, through construction. So Justin and the team and Carolyn are very well versed in kind of what expectations for MPS are in terms of like no waterfalls, sorry, no roller coasters, sorry, but we get to learn a lot. So they're really, really great. They're going to be working with you on what's really doable, not just from like in the environment, but from an MPS side. So I'm really happy that all you guys are here, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Okay, so from the Kluge team, could you guys introduce yourselves?
Great, I can go first. I'm Ms. Freckman. I'm the school support teacher at Kluge.
I'm Molly Emmons. I'm the school physical therapist over at Kluge. I'm actually one of 4 therapists over there. So we have 2 OTs and 2 PTs. So I will be representing our little cohort.
Good morning, good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Keishan Willingham, the principal here at Richard Kluge Elementary School. Just to follow up on what Molly just said, we are a school who has services students who have medically fragile needs as well. We have 2 comp units or two totally self-contained units of students. Most of those students are wheelchair bound or have some kind of extreme physical needs or whatnot, but they are a wonderful part of our school community. Thus, Molly and her team are on our particular green space team. We do have a green space team who identify the people who really want to get aboard and help with this project. But as I was speaking to Principal Williams at Hawthorne, she was saying that, hey, my whole school is the green team. And I was thinking like, yeah, that makes sense. Like the whole school, the whole staff is part of the green team in one way or whatnot. It's just everyone can attend all the meetings or whatnot. So that's why I asked Justin, could you record this in case I want to share this recording with everyone who's interested. And then we're just excited about this particular process. We're excited to impact our community. And we're lucky to have the support of our aldermen behind us, which is a great thing. And then we're just excited to change the sea of asphalt that many of our schools in Milwaukee Public Schools deal with, which is totally unacceptable for our students, and then for the community members during the summertime or whatnot, and even after school. It just makes it an eyesore. So we're ready to get rid of that eyesore. Last thing I just have real fast for Rachel, you said you're a grad student. Are they paying you for this, or is this just all pro bono?
Yeah. So CDS is a part of Milwaukee.
Awesome. Yeah, Ms. Williams over at Hawthorne, we were bringing up some examples to page 2, so you guys can take a look at what's going on with Nathaniel Hawthorne too. But yeah, she's awesome. Not every school does the whole school green team. She just took that upon herself and made that happen, and I think it's been really successful. So if that's a strategy you guys want to run with, I think that's great.
And Miss Sarita over at Longfellow also, they're cohort 1. They were constructed in 2019. Miss Sarita took the same approach, that the whole school teachers are involved with the green team, maybe not every meeting, but she definitely, she's a great resource too, because they broke down their staff into being responsible for certain areas, and that's worked out really well. So there's that cross collaboration and responsibility. So.
Okay, I'll reach out.
Cool. Okay, well, nice to meet everyone. And I hear Carolyn about trying to schedule sooner, so we're gonna maybe try to modify the agenda here so we can do the scheduling before Carolyn has to leave at 1. But before we can jump into that, we'd like to just touch base on the process here. So in the agenda, and I'm gonna copy paste this into the chat window so we all have access. There it is. If you were to click on that link, it will take you to this document. And this general process diagram is something that we'll be checking in on each month as a big picture. Where are we as we get closer and closer to construction, which can mean a few things. I'm going to just toggle over really quick and take a look at what construction can look like, just so we have a visual example. This is Clement Avenue School in Bayview. This was all asphalt before the schoolyard redevelopment. This is Andrea, their chair of the green team. If you want, you can take the audio, the full tour where she kind of describes each of these elements. But some of the major features I want to touch on real quick are the bioswale, which is a type of stormwater green infrastructure. The Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District is sponsoring this planning effort. And there's a heavy emphasis on managing stormwater as much as possible where it falls on the school grounds. And so that's through a technique we call green infrastructure. And there's a couple of different strategies on that front. This one that's being shown here is a bioswale. And stormwater goes into this and it slowly seeps into the ground. In this case, we were able to put in this kind of maintenance and discovery pathway so students can run through there. Maybe they have exposure to different types of tactile learning experiences with the native plants that are planted in there, so we can be mindful about that. This here is an outdoor classroom. Not all classrooms look like this. This is kind of on the upper scale, but they can be much smaller and best fit to your school needs as well. Also, another component here is recreational improvements. So in this case, Clement wanted to have this more like natural climbing feature. And so they have that. There's logs and stumps throughout the space. And so this acts as like an edging treatment between different types of materials, but can also be used for balancing and for seating around the outdoor classroom. Another edging is this brickwork that was used as a sponsorship opportunity, primarily for families. The school sold bricks for $50 a brick to get a name stenciled in there, and $50 was intended to be, a nice fundraiser while also being manageable for most of the families at Clement. And then some of the other features, we are also showing painted play options, basketball. If I open up this map, you'll see the full schoolyard redevelopment from a drone photo. And so we do want to make sure that we're including enough hardscape for basketball and Foursquare and all the other important activities that are happening. One of the other things I want to call attention to are these bike gardens or these traffic gardens that are helping students and families and the surrounding community learn better traffic rules and how to use bike lanes. So that's a feature that has been really well received in these redevelopments as well. But to go through that process, where it was asphalt to something significantly better, it takes time. And we're going to spend all of 2021 in the conceptual planning phase. And then at the end of the planning, we'll go into fundraising. And this diagram is really kind of hinting at the idea that we can start fundraising sooner. Even if you guys want to start, fundraising now, that's great. We won't necessarily emphasize the fundraising until we have a really solid conceptual plan set. And we won't really finalize that until the end of this calendar year. And then we'll spend all of 2022 in fundraising. And then we'll go into the detailed design, and construction will take place over summer of 2023. And so this is well connected with NPS facilities. They really want to target construction over summer so it has a lesser impact on your academic year. And so working back from that, there's a number of objectives that need to be met. But broadly speaking, this is the major 5-step process here. Any thoughts or questions on some of these major categories? The one I do want to emphasize is the maintenance and stewardship. Literally anything that we do to remove asphalt and put in anything else is going to require maintenance. The maintenance is a responsibility of the school. And so that's something that's important to consider when thinking through. You guys have a lot of opportunities on your school grounds. And so, if we do, let's say school gardens, and other activities, just making sure that they're well connected to the curriculum and you have a solid green team that's able to manage and program some of these new improvements. As we kind of step into a little bit more detail of the conceptual planning year, the next 3 months are outlined here. What we're planning on doing is conducting a charrette in March with your team. A charrette is a kind of a technical term for a intensive design session. Pre-COVID, this would mean that we'd get together with your students, your green team, staff members, and we'd all huddle around small group tables and we'd sketch ideas on paper. And it's an awesome activity. It's tons of fun. Nathaniel Hawthorne, we got everyone, students and all faculty, and it was awesome. And then COVID hit, and so we've adapted to be more of a virtual session here. And so we'll follow a similar methodology where we have kind of a big group introduction during that charrette, and then we'll break up into small virtual rooms where group leaders can add ideas to a shared concept board that's all through a virtual means. But yeah, we're interested in hearing from you about who you would like to invite to that charrette. Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The next meeting after that one is in April. That will be the open house, or that's the time that we typically invite. We advocate that schools invite elected representatives maybe neighborhood residents that maybe could not attend the charrette. But this will be a good opportunity to have a draft concept plan that the majority of your staff and your students think is really headed in the right direction. Things are not finalized by that time, so there's still opportunity to incorporate new ideas. But here we've just listed out a number of different stakeholder groups just to kind of make sure that they have an opportunity to voice their perspective on the plan drawings at that time as well. And then by May, we understand, we're getting closer to the end of the school year. So we'll have a draft before you go out for summer break. And over summer, Reflow and CDS will do some work behind the scenes so that when we come back in fall, the plan has developed a little bit more. The plan document itself it's a physical document, and this is Nathaniel Hawthorne's. We'll take a look at this in a moment, but envision this kind of physical document being created by the end of December. And then comes fundraising after that. And Reflow support will stay with you from conceptual planning all the way through construction and that first semester of maintenance and stewardship. Well, so if we could do a little switch here with the agenda to make sure we're looking at calendars. So given what I just said about the next 3 months of meetings, if we could open up our calendars and take a look at what times make the most amount of sense to schedule that. So that first meeting in March would be that charrette. And if we're thinking that's a whole school activity, I think that's awesome. Open question, we're looking at the week of March 15th or the week of March 22nd. That March 22nd is pretty occupied, but there's a couple remaining times. Do you guys have a preference on when and what day would be most appropriate?
Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, looking at our calendar, we have a staff meeting on March 10th and not another meeting until the 31st. I think there's something like this. I'm thinking more of a staff meeting type of setting than a smaller team, and then we could invite those other parties, entities who need to be invited to attend something like that. If we did that in March, I think because there is a teacher institute in the afternoon on March 31st, a morning meeting would probably be better for us for that particular day. That's the demo that I know Ms. Freckman and I are kind of privy to kind of some of the meetings and things moving parts to the building. Ms. Freckman, what do you think?
I know you just said that the week of March 22nd is filling up, but I think that might be if we're thinking of, I don't know if a Wednesday is available, if that's what you're thinking, Mr. Willingham, possibly a Wednesday. Because the 17th was confirmed for
Yep, saw that.
the iReady.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Yeah. So I don't know what is and that week is parent teacher conferences, and then we have off on the 19th.
Right.
So what is the availability looking for the week of the 22nd?
The week of the 22nd, it's that week we have, that's committee meeting week. So
it would be pushed to grade level week.
Oh, because of the change of the schedule? We could get creative and have the meeting in the afternoon on a Thursday, and then just make adjustments for staff members to have complete asynchronous working afternoon on a Thursday, because right now, Thursday the 25th, I'm completely free in afternoon.
If
You see-
that works for Rico, if that can happen.
Okay.
What are you gonna say?
Would Friday
We can
not?
make that work too, because that's actually our spring break week, so we don't have class conflicts. Rachel, I assume that works for you, but I also would be able to get maybe an additional staff person to come.
Yeah, that works for me. That's March 25th, right?
Now, when we talk about the afternoons during those particular times, we're thinking like between 12:30 and 2:30, not necessarily not between 3 and 5.
Yeah,
So,
12:30, 3:30 is absolutely perfect. Yep. If that can work on the 25th, that Thursday.
and how long will this meeting be?
An hour is right. This is the right answer. Yeah.
All right.
This is a fun meeting. This ends up, yeah, it'll be an hour.
So, okay, so Thursday the 25th, put a time, what time, what's the start time? 12:30?
If whatever works for you guys.
12:30 sounds good to me.
Okay.
Are you gonna send a calendar invite out that I would add to the school calendar, or?
Yep. So after this, Lisa will send an email. Sorry, Lisa, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'll send calendar invites for each of the meetings that we set up, as well as an email that has them all confirmed in one place for you.
Mr. Willingham, do you want me to extend an invite to the other therapist for that meeting? Okay.
And actually, Molly, with you on this meeting, would you like to be included in the communications that Mr. Willingham and Ms. Freckman are on?
That would be great. Yeah.
Include all three of them?
That Ms. Freckman, you don't have to keep forward me everything.
Molly, will you just drop your email in the chat?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, in our next 5 minutes before Carolyn's got to run, can we look at the, so the April meeting is more of the kind of the open house. We would advocate that you reach out to your board member, your elected representatives. We can help connect as well. But think of like local residents. By this time, you'll have a nice draft that people can respond to, a lot of strong visuals. So let's look at maybe April 19th, the week of, or the week of April 26th. Is there a preference in there, either one of those weeks?
And ironic, we just moved our school open house back to the first week of May, with the possibility being back in person. And so here comes another quote unquote open house.
Yeah.
The possibly weeks before. We are thinking about the week of now. In that particular time frame for us, we're technically supposed to be back inside the building right now. So now the meetings would have to be after 2:30. And they couldn't start at 2:30 on the dot because of dismissal and whatnot. So you're talking about the earliest start time we could probably do would be a 2:45. But if it's an open house and we're inviting other people to come into the building, now you're talking about maybe a 2-hour time frame, hour and a half, 2 hours. What's the time frame for that particular meeting?
So this one would be similar. It is unfortunate we're doing it. Well, an hour is what we're trying to target for these. Some schools are trying to target like getting parents involved, so that like a 4 p.m. or later. But we're open. Big picture here, we want to try to get as much stakeholder feedback on this early on. So trying to strategically place these when we can do that.
And Justin, are you thinking these are in person? I thought everything was virtual.
This would, so this would be virtual.
Okay, so even though we might be back, it would, the meeting itself would still be a virtual meeting. Okay, so then that makes a little bit of a difference too.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, because we still have after school meetings on Thursday, then you're still thinking about if you want to get parent engagement and whatnot, you don't want to start a meeting immediately at 2:30 right after school. You want to wait for some parents to get home from work, or for parents who want to engage virtually to get home from picking up their students. So again, the earliest that meeting would be the earliest it would be with 3:30.
Whatever works best for you, because the other schools are doing like 4:30, 5:30. I mean, so
I would actually probably say like more like a 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, since it's virtual, like maybe 4 o'clock, maybe since it's virtual, I would say like 4:30.
Yep.
Yeah, because if staff members want to join, and they were at school, they got time to get home,
That's true.
relax for a second before they have to jump onto another meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
So I would prefer around 4:30.
Okay, so 4:30, Wednesday, April 21st. Is that okay?
That would be, I have technically, that might actually work though, Mr. Willingham. Because I have it on the calendar as technically being a staff meeting day.
Yeah, but remember you said everything got to get pushed back 1 week, so.
I think I already changed that, if it's.
All right, we got something else to look at then. So, all right, so.
But that could actually, you know what I mean? Like if we, per se, I mean, if you then said, hey, no, I mean, you could like say, hey guys, no staff meeting, but we really want you to head home and, you know, be a part of this virtual meeting. That might be, we could, you know, I'm just thinking about getting more staff to come back. That could work. I don't know.
If that'd be the case, then yeah. And I'm thinking about other stakeholders, or maybe 5 o'clock might be better instead of 4:30 then.
Okay.
I'm thinking that 5 may be a better time because yeah, I prefer 5. If we're definitely not even worried about that, and we want to worry about people still lingering around school and being at home and comfortable. 5 o'clock on that Wednesday, the 21st is fine.
Okay, got it. That sounds good. One more meeting to schedule, and Carolyn, if you have to drop off, I get that. The next one will be May. So this one, last couple weeks here of May. This one would be kind of a smaller. Well, it doesn't have to be smaller, but this one would be the like green team. So it's not necessarily elected representatives, but we would take all the feedback that we got from that larger meeting and then present it to you all before summer. Yes.
Okay.
So we're looking at May, week of 17th or the week of May 24th.
I would say the week of the 17th on that Thursday. If we can do that on a Thursday, that would be better for.
Okay, what time?
2:45.
That can work. Yep, that works. Lisa and I will figure it out. We've got another green team meeting, but they're in a different cohort, so that's okay. So 2:45 on May 20th. Cool. Okay. So we can do that. I think the tough part of this meeting, we just finished, threaded a couple needles, we're good. So thank you for taking the time to do that. And like Lisa said, she's gonna follow up after this meeting to confirm all these dates as well. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look here. So the other parts of our agenda, Lisa, can you just walk us through some of the communications and shared documents that we plan on providing?
Yes, so moving forward, any major communications, I'll make sure to include the 3 of you on those. And then all of those emails, any of the calendar invites, any of the links that you want to forward on to other members of the green team or staff or, you know, project partners, absolutely feel free to do that. The calendar invites should also be set that you can just invite other people and they can add it to their calendar really easily. We'll always use this Zoom link. So everyone should be able to access using the same meeting link that we're on right now. And then from an organization standpoint, we've put together a shared drive for Kluge. And that folder is something that anyone with the link can access, can add information to, can download things from to help tell the story of the redevelopment process and kind of help show where we're going. So there's a couple key folders in there right now, one of which is the photos. So we have a drone that we have flown to get aerial footage of Kluge schoolyard. So this is a really great visual to help us kind of conceptualize what could potentially be different on that schoolyard, and also give us some reference point on the things that are working on your schoolyard. So we'll periodically fly the drone throughout this redevelopment process. It helps just give a lot of different perspective on really what's going on. Justin also walked the property before the snow fell to get some up close photos of existing conditions. And these images, in addition to photos that we're going to ask your support on, pictures of your students, pictures of your school, pictures of student work, field trips, all the good things that are happening at Kluge, as you share those with us, we can actually start to develop this conceptual plan document that Justin has up. So this ends up being about a 40-page document that really communicates the overall conceptual plan for your school. So we break it down into different categories and areas where we've found that funders are particularly interested. So there's, green infrastructure and stormwater management, arts and community, outdoor ed, and healthy food access, and then recreation and other site improvements. So we take all the features of our concept, divvy them up throughout this book in a narrative, and then we work together with you to write this curricular section, which is a really awesome place to highlight the lessons that you're already doing now that you are excited to continue to do and maybe be able to do differently outside once the redevelopment happens. And then also all the opportunity to teach new lessons in curriculum that will be possible because of the redevelopment. So having those pictures of your students, I know that's a challenge now, but even photos from, previous years really just help tell the story of your school community and help get people excited about what is going to happen on your schoolyard. And then there's other things in that document as well, but the photos and those curricular connections that will help you with along the way to gather that will all go into that book, and all of that stuff is shared on the shared drive. So if there's photos that you really want to use to communicate with families, or different promotional things that you're looking for, you can either find them on the shared drive or connect with me and we can help.
And then for some schools that are bilingual schools, they request that we have the book in English and Spanish. Do we have a need for bilingual support for Kluge?
That would help. We do service up to 8 different languages, but the population is not as large where we're reaching, whereas even 15 to 20% Hispanic. But I think or Spanish speaking language, I think it would be nice to have the book in both languages. And then I don't know if the possibility later on to be able to convert to other, because we do service ESL and other language learners, other English language learners as well.
Yeah. So Zablocki has, I think it's over a dozen different languages.
It's like 11.
Yeah. So in that case, we did English and Spanish, and then the MPS, if there is an interest in having other languages, MPS's translation services would be another resource we could look into.
That's fine.
Okay, cool. But we also put together that public meeting. We'll put together a flyer that you guys can review and draft next month. And if everything looks good, we'd ask that this gets circulated. It includes like the meeting link and everything. This one's for last year, but we can have this in English and Spanish if that'd be helpful.
I don't know. If we circulate that in the community, Mr. Willingham, would we need, he must be talking. I'm not sure if I don't know if we have a high population of Spanish speakers. It's like he kind of said, we have a more of a little melting pot going on in our school.
Yeah.
A little bit
I'm sorry. I had to take
different. That's
a
okay.
phone call from a parent real fast. What was it I just missed?
So we're going to create this draft flyer for the April meeting. Would you like this in English and Spanish, or is English sufficient?
English and Spanish.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. We can do that. Great. So now it'd be really helpful to hear from you guys about why are you excited about the schoolyard redevelopment? What are some of the ideas that you guys have, coming to the table? We'll share some visual examples, but first and foremost, we're just kind of interested to hear from you. What are the things that are on your mind first?
Ladies.
I could talk all day about this, but Ms. Freckman, if you want to take the lead, go ahead.
Well, you can start, because I mean, obviously, our medically fragile population, and just making sure the playground is accessible for all students. I mean, even we just recently too had a couple of students, regular education students, who were in wheelchairs, and just thinking, just wanting overall to make our playground accessible for all kids, very important. That's why, Molly is, part of this initial team here. So that's really important. For me too, just having a playground that kids want to be out and about, like staff and students want to be out and utilize. And one of the things we've noticed that I was able to pull like data just around is our playground is not conducive to, I mean, even just if you think about for recess, it's not conducive to health and fitness, social, emotional, learning, play. What does often happen is fighting. And kids are coming back into school and they're not refreshed and ready to learn, just because of the nature of all of that asphalt. There's a few kids that would, engage in some basketball with staff, but I feel like if you went out and observed on any given day, kids are just sort of roaming.
So
Yeah, without anything to do, right? That they're,
yeah,
you can't really expect too much different, but yeah, there are studies that definitely connect the social emotional impacts to asphalt. Also, we've heard from other principals for sure that referrals, there's increase in referrals during recess activities on asphalt spaces. Also slips, trips, and falls and broken bones. That's been a kind of a reoccurring theme for a lot of this hardscape as well. Yeah, so as we get into this, that map, and I'll pull up the map in a moment, but identifying areas that may be, like I just mentioned, slips and trips. If there are icing areas, to identify those would be really helpful, so we can try to manage that through this redevelopment. That would be really good. Are there anything else that's out there? Are you thinking like outdoor classrooms? And then what kind of activities would you like to do out on your school grounds?
yeah.
I can jump in if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I just want to say I will never forget a conversation I had with one of our kids at Kluge. It must have been 2 or 3 years ago now, and we were talking about like camping and going hiking and nature. And I just like asked him, I was like, have you ever gone camping? No. I was like, have you ever gone hiking anywhere? And he goes, well, yeah, like when we go out for recess and I walk along the grass, along the fence. And I was like, oh, that's this child's like concept of what going for a hike is and like being immersed in nature. And it almost made me want to cry. So like to be able to bring that to our students and, introduce them to things that, a space that they might not otherwise get a lot of opportunities to experience and like to learn about that and the impact that it has on their own community and how they can be, you know, stewards of that in their community and in their environment, I think is super cool. And then for me, when I think about our playground, I always think about, obviously just because of my role in the school, but I just think so much about our students who are wheelchair users or have, you know, strong mobility needs, and like picturing them at recess all lined up along the fence line, just watching the kids on, you know, the play structures, because it's so limited what we can do with them outside, just makes me sad. So I think like making it just an immersive experience for our kids to be outside on their playground and not just being out there, but experiencing it, and, you know, and all of their, using all of their senses and accessing as much of it as possible, I think would be awesome. I know one of our SPED teachers does an amazing lesson every day when we're in person, where they do like a cooking or like a different food tasting. They learn about different foods every day. And I immediately thought of that when you guys were talking about, you know, gardening. How cool would it be if, as part of their lesson for learning about healthy eating and healthy foods and experiencing new foods, was to be able to grow some of that themselves, and like just what a sensory experience that process is, and for them to be a part of that from start to finish, and, you know, reap the benefits of it when they get to pick it and taste it and cook with it. I just think how cool, just how cool. I'm so excited. I could go on, but those were the big ones that I
Yeah, that's awesome.
So thank you for sharing. Now, from a principal's perspective, I think about the look of our school. I think about the appeal of our school. I think about equity when it comes to the availability of resources outside from our school compared to others. But when on the day-to-day, I think about one of the biggest problems with our playground is it is so expansive that it's hard to even push kids into a particular area, because even the way it's set up with the tot lot being way back here on 65th Street, well, we want kids to be over here closer to 67th Street to be playing, and then the separation of all this space. And so when I think about the redevelopment grant, I think about changing the playground in a way where people would be invited to come to access certain areas and out of other areas. So, and how can we best utilize that particular space? I think about my funnest days at recess when I was a kid, and what games did I play? And I can't remember. I can't remember I got involved in a riveting game of kickball. The last time I seen kickball played here, I played with some kindergartners, and I think we had 3 trips and 2 stumbles and a couple of game interruptions because people are falling over concrete, or you don't want to run hard because the concrete is there. Or even something as simple as, you know, kids, if there's nothing available, kids are going to play chase and tag. And chase and tag is not terrible, but it's terrible when you're chasing and tag on the concrete, because if you get tagged and you fall down, there's many repercussions to that. Where if you were falling on grass, it wouldn't be a big deal, besides your mom being mad at you for standing up those school clothes. So it's just unfortunate that our kids don't get a chance to experience those types of things. Simple things as swing sets or monkey bars. And why does the monkey bars and swing sets only have to be for kindergarten students? And like kids older enjoy those particular types of things. Those climbing things, climbing and balance. And when I think about climbing and balance and walking across the logs or walking across the those infrastructures, where you can play these games, like I can stay on it longer than you can, and we don't get a chance to even have those particular type experiences. And like Molly said, when kids don't know what they don't know, and when you don't know, but you have an idea that you do, and your idea is so far from what the reality is, it's sad and it's disappointing that you can't even get them to experience things in a certain way. But hopefully with the advent of this particular grant and the changing of that space, kids will take pride in going outside. The neighborhood will take pride in being able to host things outside. I was here this summer for an event after school hours, and it was a positive event. It was like an outdoor concert that was held on the basketball court. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to have something like that on like an amphitheater, where the neighborhood can, because it was on the basketball court, some neighbors complained like, what are they doing over there just making noise, whatever. But they're over here having like a Black Lives Matter protest, but it looks crazy because on the basketball court with some speakers. But if we were in an amphitheater,
Yeah.
and everyone was gathered around the amphitheater, it might be a different concept or look. And so it was just the possibilities are endless. And I know that our ideas don't represent nearly half of what people are thinking. You know, of course, many people have talked to me about creating a garden and whatnot. So, and everyone wants the garden is like low hanging fruit. Then the principal in me says, okay, we have a garden. How are we going to water the flowers?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because we
That
know
big sister.
NPS has not watered any grass, it seems like, since 2001. So, you know, we just got to worry about Mother Nature to water our garden and whatnot. So those things would be great to have, but how do we sustain them and maintain them is what comes to mind for some of those particular types of things. Yeah.
Right.
But the possibilities are endless, but we just don't know how to make sure it sustains and then how to get there.
Right.
One thing I wanted to add, and I'm sorry that my video's off because I have dodgy Wi-Fi when I'm on Zoom, but this is for, Rachel and Molly in the school. In your cohort is Genslen School, which also has a high medically fragile and special needs population. So maybe there could even be a breakout or a meeting between those two teams with Rachel's team to talk about, from the standpoint of kids in wheelchairs, what some of the offerings could be for the playgrounds. You can kind of take advantage of that legwork and that collaboration across those two schools. I mean, I know we have lots of schools who have, needs, but as you mentioned, your school, and then we know that Genslen have a higher population oftentimes of those kids. So
Yeah, that's a great idea. So we can follow up on that one for sure. What I just brought up are some visual examples to the point about, just kind of, what's out there, what's in the realm of possibilities here. So the first two categories here are first two pages are stormwater green infrastructure. And so when I said bioswales, that's a good picture of that. Trees, native grasses that can help connect with some of the tactile discovery and sensory activities I heard you guys say. As well as like the nature walks, having some walkways that go through that. On the maintenance side, native grasses and more native plantings are a little bit more intensive for the first few years until the native plants become established. And because they're native, they're more prone to droughts and our local climate. And so the maintenance requirements for watering, they don't water this native grass each year. So that's the natives help, but there is maintenance more for the first few years. Underground cisterns, synthetic turf, soccer fields. These are probably more appropriate for like the more dense schools that have a lot of like really intensive play, like soccer on a small footprint. You guys have so much space. There's other opportunities, but we can certainly keep talking about this. And these spaces, allow for water to fall onto it and soak into the ground below it. Same with the rubber surfacing. And then we have installed a number of underground cisterns as a part of schools to capture as much of that stormwater. I did mention how the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District is sponsoring this, and they have a heavy emphasis on trying to capture as much water as possible on the school grounds. And underground cisterns can be a way to accomplish that. This is at Alice's Garden near Fond du Lac in North Ave, and we're able to organize a 150-person volunteer event, which is great. With the pandemic, that's not totally an opportunity right now, but by the time that your construction takes place, there may be some really interesting ways to be able to connect the project with the community as well. These are a couple of visual examples of outdoor classroom spaces. On top here, we'll just have kind of a smaller scale with logs and stumps, medium scale with the shade sails, and then the larger scale with like a 4-post larger structure. And then some of the prompts here that we're thinking about is making sure that we're locating the outdoor classrooms in areas where we may not get a lot of street noise. Maybe they're further away from the building, so they're not disrupting students in classrooms, although that can be managed through a few different options as well. But then also putting those outdoor classrooms in spaces where they might be able to take nature walks through the bioswale or something along those lines. Oh, darn it. And this will, I'll take a moment to get the rest of this loaded. That's a bummer for this, but there are a couple of other examples that I did want to show off, and this is all linked in the meeting agenda as well. So I'm going to page down, here we go. Recreational improvements, especially with all that asphalt, and we're talking about removing, a good healthy amount of that asphalt, but there will be asphalt remaining, and so these agility pathways are something that the MPS rec department has been using, and students are prompted and community members are prompted, to hop and skip and balance along creative different play markings. I talked about that bike pathway and kind of learning early on about different traffic patterns. Gaga Ball is an activity that a lot of schools are trending towards because it's a little bit more inclusive, and it's a smaller footprint. Musical elements, keep going on. These are different scales of school gardens, raised bed gardens, hoop houses, and then the upper end would be greenhouses. This is Longfellow. They installed the greenhouse a couple of years ago. Labyrinth, mindfulness spaces that are vegetated as well can be incorporated into school gardens. And then thinking through arts and community engagement. This is at Starnes Early Childhood Center. This is a synthetic or a porous surface that allows stormwater run in, but we got creative with how it got installed. And so we were able to put Lake Michigan in there and 3 slides that represent the 3 major river waterways in Milwaukee. So students have an opportunity to learn about our local geography and water resources, some boats that students can play inside of. So that's a creative way to kind of rethink how we design these spaces. Pavement art at Allen Field, murals, of course, and then this to the point about use after school hours as well. This is a photo from Paliafito Park in Walker's Point that we helped to redevelop several years ago. During the day, it's an outdoor classroom space for Escuela View, which is across the street, and at night, the Walker's Point Neighborhood Association programs different performing arts activities in this space. And so just being mindful about how we design it so that it can serve both purposes. In this case, there's electricity, obviously, and they are able to add amps and other things. Electricity, adds another layer of complication, and but we can be thoughtful about how that could be integrated down the line if that's of interest as well. And just kind of going through, we won't get rid of all of the chain link fencing, of course. And so, just thinking through how that can be used as a benefit, and thinking through how can we program that space. Some schools are looking at different like yoga prompts and mindfulness prompts to be up on signs. We're thinking about, local history that could be explored on the chain link fencing as well, while not providing a sightline issue. Hearing from police that want to do, drive-by observations to see that they can see through that chain link fencing is important to them. So we're being cognizant of that. Signs, logs and stumps. I've talked about some of these structures as well. And then thinking through how to program these outdoor classrooms. We've developed this outdoor discovery card through the Green Schools Consortium of Milwaukee. And that comes with a bunch of kits that can help support you outdoors. And then thinking through the community engagement, student dioramas, assembly activities, especially around Earth Day, fundraisers, and then celebration activities. In this case, at Starnes, students dressed up as different career pathways that were involved in the project, so like an engineer or a grant writer, and then they learned about that in conjunction with the schoolyard project as well. So these visual examples are included in these links and will be shared in that email. And I know we're coming up at 1:30. I took longer on that than I wanted to, but what's really important is that we circulate that schoolyard use survey and the sketches. And in that sketch, I'm going to bring this up real quick. If you can circulate this with students, staff, neighborhood residents, in this drawing, we have a number of blue dots. Those blue dots represent the stormwater inlets. Those are natural locations for where the stormwater green infrastructure could go, and we'll help guide that. But I just wanted to kind of call that out as kind of the low point on the school grounds. But it would be helpful to identify what you would like to see on the school grounds. And that honestly, your big site and other sites like yours, it's hard because there's so much opportunity. It's hard to understand where to start. But getting some ideas on paper and that we can start to piece together is great. And then also identifying things that work right now or don't work will be really helpful. So like if you do lineups over here and that's what you want to keep, then please indicate that on these drawings.
Okay. So just to be clear then, like where those blue dots are, so like those would be where like a bioswale or a cistern or the permeable turf or grass or something like that, that's where those things should be located.
Yeah, that would be the most efficient way to manage stormwater. I'm an engineer, environmental engineer, so we those spots to me are calling out as great places to put that stuff, because the water's already going there. We're going to spend less money capturing that water as if we were to put it somewhere else.
Okay.
But you guys have, a lot of schools only have one of these stormwater inlets. You guys have so much asphalt. Like, I really like the idea of kind of breaking up all of this space into different regions that you can do cool stuff in, and maybe breaking it up around these stormwater inlets so we can get as much stormwater managed and different groupings. Maybe a good place to start.
Okay.
Are we planning for the current like play equipment to be gone? That we're not like planning to save that, or is that staying?
A lot of schools call for their tot lots to be changed, modified. The number that we've been given to use as a placeholder is about $150,000 to remove and replace a tot lot. So that's a lot. The other thing I'll emphasize is, the fundraising is not a given. So there is no budget that's out there. The fundraising is on us and the NPS grants and Angelina with facilities to raise all the money we need for this project. So I wouldn't say take it off. I just want to be real upfront that if we do talk about that and we want to continue to talk about it, it comes with a hefty price tag. But I would say 90% of the schools that we work with all include the tot lot as something that they would like to modify. And should we get?
Sorry.
No.
Is there a way to, like, if that budget, keeping that in mind, and we decide to keep it for that reason, is there a way to like build off of the existing tot lot area?
So that some schools are interested, like Nathaniel Hawthorne in particular, they wanted to, remove some of the chain link fencing and build more of their tot lot. And there are different options. There's like more, I heard you guys say the climbing options. There are other types of play features that are out there. And so if you want to build off of that, that's certainly an option as well. And I don't take my comments as like, let's not talk about the tot lot, because I think it's important. I just want to be upfront about, the costs and everything. So.
Sure.
So, in the middle of the picture, you can see like an upside down L shape where trees are lined, class areas right there. In anything we do, we're not adjusting any of that space, are we?
Yeah, I wouldn't say to to change that unless you want to talk about, I walked over here and I checked that out.
You're
That
talking
could,
about tornado alley.
I did observe there are a lot of leaves over there. It looked that could be kind of a cool science space, to kind of observe some of those things if we want to get creative with that. But I would be, we would be advocating for, building off of what works. So these trees are cool and they're mature, and, how can we make the most of that?
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
really beautiful in the fall from the second story windows.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, those are nice trees, but then right behind that tree, you got the little trap of you saw leaves, but half the time we see chip bags and all kind of stuff just going in a circle, round and round and round in that little
Uh-huh.
well right there. Why that happens, I don't know. But like you said, maybe that is a good science lesson that
Yeah.
that can come about. But yeah, cool. So we've distributed this to staff members and told staff to share those same grids with with families. We've
Right.
created a Google folder for staff members to, once they have done those, had communication with their classrooms and had done lessons with students, to kind of create maybe like class sketches or whatever to drop it in the Google folder that we've
Awesome.
created. Then we also have had staff members already start distributing the links to the survey. So I don't know if you all, Lisa, if you got
Yeah.
access to what's been already submitted or whatnot. I don't know what's been submitted or not.
I looked before our meeting and there's more than 10. I think there's 15 surveys that have come through already, which
Okay.
is good. And when your teachers drop their class drawings and that feedback in the folder, if you can either just share that folder with me or
Mhm.
add it to the shared drive, that would be really helpful. We are trying to have feedback by next week, Thursday, the 4th, so we can incorporate that into our next meeting. But just keep sharing it. I mean,
Yeah,
people
we
are
know.
responding.
Gonna in the weekly newsletter that goes out on Sundays, I'm gonna put it in there again. There's been a lot of stuff, a lot of due dates this week for staff members, so I try to be mindful of that and not send another reminder about this per se, because we know we have to next week Thursday to do that.
Mhm.
We'll do another big push next week Sunday through next week Thursday, kind of to lighten the load of what's going on staff's day already. So hopefully we'll get some more, and then we'll get some more parent feedback as well. So I'll have to send an email out with the link in there to parents as well. So
Do you all have social media, like Facebook page?
we don't have a Facebook page per se. I just spoke to for a while. It was different trains of thought whether or not that was acceptable, and then I just found out that if some schools actually do have it and the district has approved or whatnot, but I don't know who will run it on a day-to-day. I'm kind of scared about where they can go, but then they said there's a whole bunch of different settings that you can put in place to make it easier to manage.
Mhm.
So that might be
I
a
think
possibility.
I think that's the marketing and communication group at Central. So like Molly Quirk does a lot of the text and things, but the Cherie Douglas is the new director there.
Yeah. Tim
One
Remshack.
person I've met with Earl Arms. He does a lot of stuff over there too. So maybe sending out just like a simple, email to Molly saying, hey, who do we contact about getting a Facebook page? That might be a real quick resolution to support as well.
And not trying to create more work, just other schools have used that platform to help share surveys and things. So just curious.
All right.
All right. Well, I thank you everyone for hanging in there. It's after 1:30. Our next meeting, like we scheduled earlier, is March 25th, Thursday at 12:30. That's the charrette. So the more people we can get to that meeting, the better, so we can get some of those ideas on paper and get some responses to the surveys that you guys are circulating. So,
Are we going to have access to that Google folder, or did you add us as?
yes.
Yep, you should be able to click into it now. In the follow-up email, there'll be 3 blue buttons in there. One will be the survey, one will be the sketch, and one will be the shared drive. So you can just click on those and get to them.
What's the name of the folder?
It's Kluge Shared Drive. Or shared folder? I can drop it in the link or in the chat real quick too. I think
Now I gotta figure out how to move that drive to my shared drive. Oh, it should pop up in my shared drives if you shared it with me, but I don't see.
here, I'll
Only
drop.
Kluge shared drive I got is the one that we created at school already.
This should be the link to the shared drive.
Okay. Okay. Kluge shared folder. I'm in.
Yeah, and feel free to use those drone photos, you know, however you'd like. Reflow took those, but feel free to use them.
Okay.
And we'll take more later in spring.
Okay. All right. I got it.
Cool.
All right.
Lisa, it was the second email, sorry, that I put in the chat. I think I forgot a period in the first one.
Oh yeah, my fingers just naturally do the MPS end of the email.
The long one.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All set? We good?
Yep, sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
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 You too.